Let's talk about Jussie.
Because we did it. We did it. We was trying to...
We're trying to be respectful and shit. No, god damn it. It's time for the whatever was in the dark to come out in the light.
Well, in order for us to stay on theme, but also talk about this, I'll say my next song, and then I want to hear your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Years later, I'd love to hear what you think about this situation.
Yeah.
You know, as far as the real honest and true story, I feel like what's the song? The lyric goes, sometimes shit goes down when there's $1 billion on the elevator.
Flawless remix. I feel like that situation. I am not putting $1 billion. I feel like that situation, we're never going to know the 100% honest truth of any of this. But like that situation, there is some fuck shit afoot. And I don't know what said fuck shit is, but it's shitty fucky. And I'd love to hear your belated thoughts at this time. In 2024, October, September. Yeah. And mind you, this is somebody that I have met before and I've worked with. You know, it's no secret I've worked on The Skinny and he was a cast member, right?
Hey, with you, Patrick Gilbert.
Yeah. That's also why all these pictures I see of Noah's Ark, I'd be like, bring me my money, nigga.
With interest.
Everybody want me to celebrate gay shit. I'll celebrate gay shit when they stop owing me money. Anywho, sue me.
Uncle Ruckus.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. Listen, community my ass. Ain't no community when you... I am Jackie Marie Christie, Doug Christie's wife. I'm a beautiful boss. Okay, so my thoughts on Jussie. At first I believed, and then I talked to my mother-in-law. and she said, now wait a minute.
I love a black woman.
She was like, because, you know, from Chicago. Like, she was like, that don't make sense. Ain't nobody out there. First of all, it's too fucking cold.
That is literally, that is number one.
And she was like, that is like Whitesville. Nothing happens there. That's not, she was like, they all acting like this was the West Side and stuff. Like, no. Number one. And number two, if you're supposed to be so bundled up, how would they know that you black? You know what I mean? They have like premeditated like nooses and blah, blah, blah. Like, nigger. Like that. First of all, that wouldn't happen in Chicago. And
two Nigerian niggas ran up on you.
Yeah. Now, when I peel back the pomelo, I think I think about like who the assailants looked like and were and things. They gave actor.
Yeah.
They gave stuntmen. Like they in a WWE program?
Perhaps.
Possibly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Were they on American Warrior Ninja, whatever the fuck? Gladiator?
Perhaps.
Possibly. Because were they stuntmen on Empire? Because nothing about that story made sense. And the only thing I can think of is, as far as motivation, would be to make yourself either you take it method acting way too far, drag way too far, or you're thinking that this scandal, because we all know that PR sometimes they will create scandal for celebrities to up their profile, right? Like and we've all seen it, either they've been contrived or not. Like, for example, this was not a contrived scandal. This is a really tragic
incident that happened, but Ariana Grande, right? There was a bombing at one of her concerts and killed a whole bunch of teenage girls and whatever.
Oh
But
no.
and then in Manchester, England, then she went back a year later and did like a benefit concert and stuff. And so that like, A, that was the right thing to do, but B, brave of her to do. And also rocket launched her career, right?
Did they figure out who did it? Were they trying to bomb her?
I'm not sure. It feels like it though. Because like several people died. It was crazy.
Oh my God.
It was around the time where like the music festivals where everybody had like an issue, right? Like Astro, it was a lot.
Oh, that was that around that Travis Scott time?
I feel like there was years apart, but there was like it was beginning to be a pattern of music festivals having issues.
This was 2017. Yeah.
Yeah. And she went back in 2018 and stuff like that. But then I think about like other scandals, right? Like, what's this shit? Entanglement. You know what I mean? Like that's a scandal that backfired for everybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so I can see how that was a contrived thing because both of them had books coming out and shit like that. But like with Jussie, I don't know how he expected, because I didn't like what happened after. I didn't like this idea of because we black and gay, we need to be on full support. Mm-hmm. I also don't like the fact that black gays tend to be contrarian and not believe our own because we have in some weird self-hate when it comes to our own. Mm-hmm. But it was very difficult to combat both of those things where what we're watching is completely untrue or a farce.
Right.
So, and I never want to be on the side of cops. I never want to be on the side of state, anything really. But however, there was a lot of resources taken away from people that could have been used elsewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Chicago, we all know Chicago is struggling in various forms, just like any other city currently, right? But we know that, police like to abuse power and use overtime and use this as an excuse. And if this situation did not exist, all that money that they're using, that they're claiming could be used for this, could have been used for other things. Mm-hmm. And that's what I dislike, right? This idea. And I don't want to put this idea of like, well, you're embarrassing in front of white people, and this is how we don't get on board, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I don't like that. I don't like that rhetoric, but I also don't like crying wolf either. Mm-hmm. I don't like the fact that why would you use this type of rhetoric or this type of attention-seeking thing in general? Like that's what like Crystal talks about, this like the man in the moon, and like and then when the moon howls back, then it's a story.
Right. Right. Which is true.
Yeah.
It ain't no different than anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, I think as someone who has known them at a particular part of their career where they were really trying to make something of themselves, and then they do this, is super disappointing, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's like, you didn't have to do this. No. You also are connected with people, you were related to people who could really put yourself out there.
And you were at the most mainstream point of your career that
the highest moment of his career, honestly.
And you forget, we are elder millennials. We remember when you was on the show with all your fucking siblings. Yeah. We seen that. I was disappointed by that as well. I felt like it was very unnecessary.
Again,
I don't know if it was, I don't know what the motive was, but it didn't have to go down like this.
No. And I don't want to, because also this takes away from people who are actually getting assaulted and bullied by people who were homophobic and things. Like we have black trans people being killed at an alarming rate.
Daily.
And then you want to lie and shit. Again, pooling resources again.
And lying on a movement. You lie on like something that don't need to be bastardized at all. because you don't need to give half of these hateful motherfuckers an inch. And this is not on some like, why you gotta be? No, it you don't need to make this worse for people who already face so much from right wingers. Like, why would you use that as your motive?
And ultimately, why would you steal within your own community, right? Like you're stealing like this morality type of thing, you know, like fanning this support that didn't really need to be there. And I also just didn't understand, like, don't use Black Lives Matter and that type of messaging and rhetoric. If you are not being thoroughly and unjustly processed due to state violence, you know what I mean? Like, it's already difficult. I don't want to put this in the frame of white gaze or what white people see of us. So I will frame it in the sense of how we see ourselves and each other. And unfortunately, a lot of stuff in the movement is an uphill battle, right? I think about times where there were blacks who weren't into civil rights. They were fine with the status quo. There are people who combated the free lunch program that the Panthers was giving out because they thought it was a handout and selective and blah 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 blah. Right?
There's people now look at that nigga you're talking about. Like, there's people now who are not even as extreme as that. Who are, even when it comes to things like, why are you talking about Palestine so much?
Yeah,
baby, because, like, what do you know about Cop City?
Because we have to.
Like, you're asking me that from Atlanta. You're asking me that from Atlanta.
Yeah,
where the first Cop City's being erected, where you have an officer exchange. Your police department has an officer exchange program with the same people that are killing them thousands upon thousands of people. And you know what? Yeah. I just Googled this Ariana Grande bombing after you told me about it. I was like, I hadn't heard anything about this. It's very interesting. The bombing was allegedly done by a young man who was supposed to be a part of some Islamic extremist group. His sister, this is quoted, said her brother was motivated by the injustice of Muslim children dying in bombing stemming from the American-led intervention in the Syrian civil war. A family friend of the alleged suicide bomber also remarked that he vowed revenge at the funeral of Abdul Wahab Hafida, who was run over and stabbed to death by a Manchester gang in 2016 and was friend of his and his brother. So, not defending, but it's interesting.
I see the motivation.
Like, you killing our kids and you won't. I don't agree with the carry out. I don't agree with the carry out.
I see where
you poke somebody at a dinner party under the table the whole time with your fork. When they punch the motherfucker out of you above the table, they're wrong. And that's what happens. Again, I don't agree with this carry out.
Yeah.
But when we read these stories, or when we hear about these stories, we got to do our due diligence to see all of what is involved in them, because we're only ever told an eighth of the story. Interesting.
But yeah, Jussie, I think that was disappointing. I hated the fact that we had to go down that road. I hate one of those things like this sets us back. I don't think.
Yeah, that's not even.
I don't necessarily think that's the right conversation to have, but it does set a conversation back in this idea of how we talk about policing, right? And how we talk about, like, in our own community. That's another battle, right? But like when we talk about policing our own, right? Like in Community, does that look like pulling some like, now we know you on some bullshit now? Like, you know what I mean? What does that look like? How do we hold our own accountable without using tactics of the oppressor, right?
Yeah.
How do we, because again, to quote Monique, I don't hate them, just I want them to come home. You know, like I don't want to cast. Now there are certain Negroes I can cast aside, sure,
Absolutely.
but in this case, Jussie, I don't know why you did that, but you didn't have to.
You didn't have to.
And none of the cards that are stacked against you are that you're providing us is helping your defense for us to believe you. I know we're supposed to be like, believe people, right? But it's very difficult sometimes to do so.
I'd have a lot of respect if he came up and said, I accidentally put 10 on 20 and
I was doing 65 and 35.
Okay, and I took drag too far. Like, I would, like, if you said that, I'd be like, you know what?
Yeah.
Copy. It was a bad time in your life. You know what I'm saying? You went down the wrong road and it spiraled out of control. But I feel like he could have a successful career after that. Like, I feel like that's possible. But if you don't allow yourself to get out of this shame of the foolishness that you created, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know motives and things. I don't know. Maybe somebody else had a hand in this. You know, maybe he was aided in how this went out of control and then he was left to deal with it all by himself. I don't know. But you can rectify it by just saying, I was doing too much, you know?
Yeah, I think in the next 5 to 7 years, he'll be back in Hollywood. I think that he has done damage to his career, but it's not irreparable, right? Mm-hmm. I think, like most people, go away for a decade, come back with the Amazon show, and you good. Mm-hmm. Like, that's literally how Hollywood works now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
get you with Ryan Coogler, get you with somebody black.
Yeah.
You know, take you under their wing. Or unless if Tyler Perry don't distill you,
well,
or go back.
You know
to
what? If that's the lane that you need to, I don't wish that on anybody. If that's the lane you need to go down, you know. But in honor of Jussie Smollett, his song will be Snoop's "Doing Too Much." It wasn't even.